Toastmasters and guests, our next presenter is someone who is very accomplished in Toastmasters. She's a distinguished Toastmaster, has served at the club, district, and international levels, her highest post being region advisor. But what strikes me most about her is how willing she is to help persons, to mentor them, coach them in all aspects, whether it is speech, leadership, and especially in club building. When it comes to club building, I've personally experienced how her eyes light up and she'll spend time and time and time just supporting people, supporting new clubs, and helping clubs to remain strong. She's the kind of person who does it for the love. And I can attest to this because there are times when she sponsored a club and I have to remind her, Toastmaster, do you remember that you sponsored the club? She's like, no. Well, we need to submit the form so that we can get the credit. That is not why she does what she does. She does it for the love. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next presenter, a past district governor, past region advisor. Please put your hands together for distinguished Toastmaster Essie Gardner.
Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate the warm welcome that you have offered. Let me thank our Toastmasters from across the region for giving up their Sunday afternoon for this presentation, for this workshop. It is the 13th of December, very close to Christmas, and I'm sure that there are many persons who would have been otherwise involved in Christmassy activities. We do appreciate the fact that you are spending this time with us, and we do believe that it will be to our benefit, meaning the Toastmasters of the region, in the long run. Today, I shall be sharing with you a little bit about the workings of the workings of the of building clubs. I will be sharing a presentation, but please understand that this is a very interactive session, and I'll be asking you questions, and I will expect you to be responding. And if you have questions, have no fear, just jump in and ask. So we will be dealing with a little bit about how do we generate and assess leads. Toastmaster Fabiola mentioned the fact that sometimes we get an idea and we run with it before we actually do the planning. How do we assess that this is a good, solid lead, a hot lead as I call it, and therefore something to follow up on? How do we make contact? And also, how do we deal with the meetings, this, not just the sample meeting, some persons may call it demonstration meeting, not just that meeting, but the organizing meetings. What does Toastmasters International have to say about what you include in those meetings? So let us begin with, how do you get your leads? And folks, please remember, I expect you to respond. One of the things you need to consider is what works best in your location. I will tell you, for example, that when District 81 started, we were a little shy on creating corporate clubs, partly because we were not yet attuned to the needs of the corporations, but because we found it easier to create the community clubs. But what works for you? Do you have a lot of large corporations in your environment, or do you have large areas of large communities from which you could get members? That is something you have to work out for yourself. And how do you then secure the leads? And I don't want to pick on people, but I will. What are some of the ways that you get leads? I'd like 2 or 3 persons to respond. All right. And one of the things you will learn about me is that I will ask once. When next I speak, it will be a voluntold. So I'm going to ask once. How do you get leads? Leona, you have it. Sorry, who's speaking?
This is Donna.
Hi, Donna.
Hi.
How
And
do
we
you
get
do?
leads. I am good. I am good. We get leads from our various communities, our
Right.
various social clubs, and through other volunteer organizations that we may be in.
That's right. Anyone else wants to suggest how we can get leads?
Distinguished
Melinda Lloyd has
Toastmaster
her hand
Essie.
raised.
Who? Melinda. Toastmaster
Hi.
Melinda, please go ahead.
Thank you, Distinguished Toastmaster Essie. You can also do an assessment of the organizations within your community who may not have existing Toastmasters clubs.
Precisely. That's a very proactive way to go about it. You see an organization which looks like they could use a Toastmasters club, and you need to do the assessment and determine how you're going to do that. Um, there are going to be times, there are going to be times when you believe that they're ready for it, but the organization itself is not ready. But we'll get into how we do the assessment. Anyone else with another suggestion as to how we secure leads? Okay. Toastmaster Leona, any suggestions?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My suggestion when you asked the question was an organization that you are involved in, the one that you're working at, and you see that areas of that organization need leadership skills and communication skills, that is one of the leads you would use.
So true, Leona. Thank you so much. I will tell you that I work for the Jamaica Tourist Board, and I have in fact formed a club at the Jamaica Tourist Board, but it was only after many years. Not only did I see the need, but we needed to be able to seed the thought in the right minds so that the organization could facilitate. So, yes, you are right. Looking at your own organization and assessing whether or not communication and leadership skills are needed, that's another way. Something that has not been mentioned is the fact that Toastmasters International will sometimes send leads to the district. And depending on where the lead is coming from, then the district leaders, particularly the club growth director, would share it with the area, with the division director to say, hey, here's a lead from your section, from your division, please explore. So leads come from anywhere. It's for us as club builders to grab the lead, assess the lead, and continue with the planning. What are some of the things that we use to assess the leads? Here are some thoughts that that have come from experience of many persons. Things you want to consider: membership potential. How many persons are there to grow the club? What is the leadership potential? Meaning, are you the only person or two or three people who are going to do the work? What is the leadership potential within the group? Who's the decision maker if it is a corporate club? Do you have corporate support? Are we able to afford the club? And that is a real question. And how accessible is the club, particularly for community-based clubs, community-type clubs? How accessible is the meeting space to members? So those are some of the some of the resources that you will have to look at. You want to look at the financial resources. Who's going to pay the charter fee? Toastmaster Fabiola just mentioned that if it's a community club and you're doing the calculations, then everybody will have to contribute towards the charter fee. We know that, for example, if you're going to start a standard club with 20 people, all of whom are brand new Toastmasters, the cost is going to be $1,425. We know that. So how is that $1,425 going to be accounted for? Are there any local fees that are going to be included? What of meeting facilities? Will they have to pay for meeting facilities if it's a community club? What are the materials fees? Nowadays, because most things are online, it may not be as costly to shipping material and so on, but there still is a fee for materials. And then there are other resources. What is your support team? Toastmaster Fabiola spoke about building your support team. and she was very right. If you are going to rely on one or two persons, you're going to suffer from burnout. So you have to build a support team that's going to not only be with the person with the new club for 6 months, but for longer. And I want you to realize that all of the presentations build on each other. You hear me referencing some of the things Toastmaster Fabula said. For example, if you start the club in the middle of the year and you leave after 6 months, the new club will have no experience whatsoever to deal with the demands of the first part of the year. So the support team has to be in place to support them for at least a year. We mentioned accessibility already, and timing. What kind of timing do you need for persons to support the club? Do you have any other ideas that you may have to consider as you're planning to start your club? Anyone?
Madam Toastmaster,
Yes.
I was listening to what targets you're going to be looking for, and I was consumed with something else. But I want to mention this. Right now, because of the COVID, a lot of people are out of jobs, and therefore they can build their resume by joining a Toastmasters club. So when they go back out to work, they can demonstrate leadership skills, communication skills. So that's a good area that we can also target a lot of people, and we can send our information to the employment agencies.
Right. So what I'm hearing from you is that as we are looking to build clubs, we are to look at persons who are furloughed, who have been laid off, who might be able to join a club, and for whom it will be beneficial as well.
Correct.
Yes. Right. So I'm not sure where that would be part of the membership potential, I think.
Yes.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? With any? Yes.
Essie?
Yes.
I would say in other resources, perhaps a program plan, because if you're starting a club, you'd want to have meetings and an idea of what you're going to be presenting at the meetings for the first 6 months to keep them new members engaged and to encourage new persons to join.
Thanks, Jason. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're just now talking about what are some of the things that you will have to look at to determine whether or not this is a hot lead or one that is a little difficult. I see that Melinda's raised her hand.
Hi, distinguished Toastmaster Essie.
Hi.
If you have an organization who has come forward, their management team is involved, and they're saying that they want this to be involved in their HR program, that could tell you that this is a stronger potential than somebody that you have to go out and convince that this is the way for them to go.
Exactly. All right. Thanks so much, Melinda. And Jason, I'm going to ask you to remember that thought that you had, because we're coming to it in a short while. All right. Some years ago, I believe it was it might have been when I was district governor, then what we call Elget, the role that Innocent now plays, his name is Distinguished Toastmaster from St. Martin.
Roland Tobias.
Roland Tobias, thank you. Thank you. Distinguished Toastmaster Tobias developed a grid, and it helps us to determine how it is that we can assess a lead. You will see here the possible focus areas. You have membership potential. How many persons are there? What's the distribution of these persons? What's the operational culture of the organization? Some are related to corporate clubs and others to community clubs. What's the operational culture of the organization? How do people work together? Is it a situation where persons are individuals and they don't necessarily connect with each other frequently? Or do people work frequently in teams? Because that will impact how the club may function. There's also the employment patterns. Does the organization have a lot of contract workers, short-term workers, or is there a lot of turnover, or do you have people who work with the organization for longer periods. And you can see the impact that this would have on a new club. What's the leadership potential? Who within the organization is going to champion the cause of Toastmasters? I will give you an example. Several years ago, we attempted to form a club at JPS. I believe Toastmaster Melinda might have been working at JPS at the time, but she was not yet a Toastmaster. And there were several others who eventually became Toastmasters. And it took us maybe a year and a half, 2 years before we actually got the club going, Shanari.
Yes, and Melinda was a Toastmaster, just a very Toastmaster.
Just a new Toastmaster, right? But when we eventually got the club going, it really got going, and we had several people who were Toastmasters who jumped in other clubs, who jumped in to support the new prospects. So sometimes it takes a little time. If you do the evaluation early and you see where the weak points are, then you can shore up those weak points and get the prospect to charter much quicker. If at the time Melinda was who she is now, then we knew it would have been very, very easy to get the club chartered because Melinda is a force to behold. So you want to look at what the potential is. Where's the support coming from? What kind of financial support will the organization offer? There are those organizations which will offer a meeting space only, and there are those who will offer meeting space plus charter fee. And then there are still others who will offer meeting space, charter fee, and a portion of the membership dues. It depends on what the organization wants. So you have to look at what the financial support is and detail that on your assessment grid to determine whether or not it's it has low potential, moderate potential, or high potential. The way I work this grid is to assign 10 points per focus area. So let us say that we were going to look at membership potential. Sorry. I'm sorry, let me stop sharing and share again because the document has disappeared. Okay, let us say that we were going to put membership potential as the first element. You may want to say, for example, the organization, in my case, I tend to say that if the organization has less than 100 employees, then we shall give that company no points. And you may wonder why 100 employees? Remember that whilst you start with 20, you want to be able to have new members coming in. And in Jamaica, whilst we have large, small, and medium enterprises, we want to make sure the more employees you have, the better. So for my grid, I have less than 100 employees, no points. 101 to 250 employees, I will give 5 points. And over 250 employees, I will give the full 10 points. You have to determine what's the average organization size in your organization. How do I divide up the points? And not just the employees, but how many persons are interested. So if I have 250 employees in an organization, but the interest is less than 10, that clearly is not going to have a lot of points. Is someone watching the chat? I see that chats are coming in, but I can't read it at this time. So I will continue. So you determine what your potential is, what your focus areas are, and how much points you're going to give. Like I said, for me, I write membership potential, less than 100 employees, 101 to 250, and 250 plus 251 plus employees, along with the interest, and then I will allocate the points, and you will determine whether it's a high potential, low potential, medium potential. Another category that you can look at is corporate support. Let us say that we're talking about a corporate club. Is the corporation going to provide meeting space only? Is it going to include it in as part of the training program, the training and development program? Is it going to provide charter fees plus membership fees? So I have 3 elements that I want to look at for the corporation's corporate support. And that's how I do it. Provides meeting space, used as incentive for staff, incorporated in the training program. Those are the 3 areas. Financial support now will speak to charter fee and new member fee, charter fee, and contribution to dues or education. I'd like you to spend 5 minutes. No, actually, I don't want you to spend the 5 minutes. I'd like someone to take one of these areas and let us talk through how you could break it out. Anyone? How could you assess a prospect using any of these? Hello? Toastmasters?
Can you hear me?
Oh, thank you. I was wondering if I was talking.
No, we can hear you. We're just thinking, and I'm probably going to fall horribly flat on my face trying this, but
Don't worry about it. That's what we're here to help each other up. So let me put the grid on the screen, and let's take a try.
Okay, my interest for Toastmasters would be a part of a voluntary organization I'm a part of, who works in acquiring membership. We don't have 100 members, so that wouldn't get the point. In addition, we do currently have 2 Toastmasters who are a part of the group, which means it would not only be me that would be championing Toastmasters, you had said was the right thing. So that would also allow to say there would already be somebody internal. So the leadership potential part, because the group itself is oriented towards that, that would already be there because it's about building young people. I'll throw in what Distinguished Toastmaster Fabiola said about 18 to 35 who have money and don't know where to spend it. So that is financial support right there as well. And though there is a membership fee to be a part of the club, it may be something that could be incorporated atop their membership fee. So both are combined as a pitch to whoever is joining. So I think that one would be the you said 10 points. And for corporate support, there wouldn't be any there, so there would be no point. Employment patterns, there isn't high turnover, but because it's a voluntary organization that it's a renewal every year, I would assume that I would put 0 because there is no guarantee that somebody would actually want to rejoin. There is no, it's definitely, it has to stay. And how many, right, I think I covered everything else. Yeah, I think I covered everything.
Thanks, Joni, thanks. Fellow Toastmasters, what do you think about the situation or the prospect that Joni is speaking about? She's saying it's a voluntary organization There's no guarantee that anybody will be there year on, year out. There is, because of the people with whom they work, there's potential for members, but there's no corporate support, there's no financial support. Am I getting it right, Joni?
Yes, yes, you are.
They do have champions, Toastmasters champions who will be able to support. Would you call that a hot lead or a low potential, moderate potential, or high potential? Anyone? Anyone?
I don't think that's a very hot lead.
Agreed with you, Corinne. Why would you say that?
First of all, the members are already paying dues. There might be resistance to that, to adding Toastmasters dues to their regular dues, number one. Number two, the organization has been formed for a specific purpose. And they may also, there's doubt, well, I doubt whether they would have sufficient members of the club, which, by the way, she did not mention the size, her membership size, that pool. So I think that would also be a challenge. And also, if it was going to be a closed club, that makes it doubly challenging. If that was going to be the basis, but you are going to open it to a wider membership, that might strengthen the potential. And we haven't talked about things like meeting space and things like that. That would also have an impact in costing.
Okay, thank you, Corinne. Are you seeing how you can use an assessment tool like this to help you in determining whether or not there is a strong prospect at hand? Wow, silence.
No, Jason says great tool.
Okay, thank you.
A lot is happening in the chat.
Okay, all right. Apologies.
And Julia says agreed.
All right. How do we contact our prospects? What are some of the things we can do to make sure that Toastmasters is on show? There is a letter of interest. This is a formal communication introducing a good or service and requesting an opportunity to showcase more. I was part of a group once that determined that we wanted to build some clubs, and we sent out tons and tons of letters. Some of them did respond, and we actually had some clubs growing, some sample meetings done out of this. So it does have its place. The letter needs to be well written. And this is where I ask you to, I reiterate what Fabiola said about getting the support from your district leaders, because they will be well appointed to help you write this kind of letter. So reach out to your district leaders to get this kind of letter written. There's also cold calling. This is an unsolicited visit or telephone call made by someone trying to offer or sell goods and service. Cold calling also works, but you have to be very deliberate. It's a very specific selling tool. It is never a long call. You're not planning to sell Toastmasters in this call. It's simply, the aim of the call is to get you in to make with a presentation, right, to the group. So remember that if you're going to do cold calling, it's something that you really have to be focused on and plan how you are going to do this. It is not a long call, and the purpose of that call is not to get them to agree to a Toastmasters club on the call. And of course, you can always put out feelers among your network. Someone you know can provide an introduction, so you can offer them whether training or facilitating education, any of those kinds of things. What do you find works for you in terms of contact? Anyone? Silence.
No, not silence. I was just going to raise my hand to be acknowledged.
Okay.
When you say what works, do you mean like how you go about doing it? Which mediums do you use?
Yes.
For an organization, I think it's the best place to write an email or a letter of some sort at first to introduce yourselves and what you're suggesting and solicit some time to have a meeting. And then you give it some time and then follow up with a call and then take it from there.
Thank you, Melinda. That's an excellent recommendation. Write first, follow up with a call. That works tremendously. I also want to encourage persons to know that have an elevator pitch ready at all times. You go to social events, when you are doing your networking, don't forget Toastmasters. I like to say that Toastmasters doesn't happen only in your meetings. It's something you do all the time. And if you are aiming to be a club builder, you need to have information at your fingertips, be able to talk about Toastmasters at the drop of a hat without going into overkill. So yes, write, follow up with a phone call, but also have an elevator pitch ready because there are always going to be opportunities for you to make contact and to present Toastmasters. So if we have done all of what Fabiola has told us to do, that is to plan, prepare, build our team, and then you assess your leads and you make contact and you are included, or you're invited to do a sample meeting. How do you go about that? What are some of the things that you need to ensure are part of the sample meeting? You need to be able to do a presentation on the charter process. You need to include something on the benefits of Toastmasters, and you need to have Toastmaster endorsements. Now, this doesn't mean that you're not doing a sample meeting, a regular Toastmasters meeting, but you have to find ways and means of including these elements. So your Toastmaster endorsements may very well be your table topics. The benefits of Toastmasters could be about Toastmasters, and then your ed feature could be presentation of the charter process. And you would, of course, include your speaker and your evaluators and so on and so forth. These are things that need to be included. I want to talk a little bit about some of the roles that must be included in the sample meeting. And I am going to stop sharing this and share an activity. All right. I had it opened and now it's gone.
All right, Toastmaster Essie, I'll share for you.
I found it.
Okay, good.
Here is a quick crossword puzzle that I'd like us to fill in. Here are the clues. So number 1 down is person presenting a speech. Who would you say that is?
Speaker.
A generic word for a person presenting a speech.
Speaker.
That's good. Speaker is good. What about 2 down? The presiding officer. Who's that?
Toastmaster.
President.
Toastmaster.
All right. So who said Toastmaster?
I did.
Why do you say the Toastmaster is the presiding officer?
What is the person who introduces the speaker, who introduces all the members of the facilitators, the evaluators, and the speakers for the evening?
But is the toast,
Excuse me, it's the chairman.
President.
but who is the chair?
Sorry,
Who is the chair?
that's the presiding officer.
Right, the chair is the presiding
officer.
So what would we call that person?
The
President.
Thank you.
People read. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong.
Evaluator.
Let us go to 4.
Evaluator.
Evaluator. Oh, I got that wrong. Sorry, I'm in the wrong space. I'm going down, right?
Right, yes. Okay, 5 next.
Table topics master.
Think topics master.
Topics master.
Grammarian.
1 second.
Somebody's just too quick.
Ian.
What's next? 6.
Person, yes, grammarian.
Grammarian, G-R-A-M-M-A.
I'll keep quiet though.
No, this is, oh yeah, we got it. Ian, you do this very often, man.
And then we go across. What's number 3?
General evaluator.
Thank you.
Perfect.
General
Yeah, evaluator. Mhm.
evaluator. Yep.
And then timer.
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 Yeah.
7.
Yes.
7.
Yes.
7. Okay.
The last one. Is
Toastmaster.
The last one is
That's
Toastmaster.
when we get to the Toastmaster.
Right. All right.
Excellent. So these are some of the roles. These are the roles that you really need to make sure that you have for your sample meeting. Claire? Excellent. I'm going to stop sharing here and go back to my...
What do we get?
Sorry, you did well. All the answers are there. They're correct.
I think Melinda wants a prize.
Melinda wants a prize? I'll give you a prize, Melinda.
Okay, thank you.
I'll give you a prize. All right, so any questions on the sample meeting and the inclusions? Moving right along to Toastmasters International indicates that the aim is to get a club chartered in about 8 meetings. That's the aim. And in those 8 meetings, you need to build the capacity of the prospective members. There are some ideas there's some things which are compulsory, mandatory for inclusion in the sessions, and you have the opportunity to include other things. Here are some of the mandatory things. The charter process has to be discussed. Managing the club has to be discussed. How do you need to get a team in place to lead the club. You need to introduce a Toastmasters education program. And by now, I am hoping that we are not making reference to the legacy program, but all we're speaking is the Pathways education program. Remember that clubs will have nothing to compare with, so don't put that into the mix at all. We have to ensure that they know about the meeting roles and responsibilities, because by meeting 3, we're expecting that they are functioning for the most part in the functionary roles. We may still be, a seasoned Toastmaster may still be doing the general evaluation and perhaps Toastmaster and speech evaluations, but you are building capacity over this 8-week period. There are some communication sessions that you have access to, which you can share with the prospective club. For example, organize your speech effective evaluation. That is essential. Introducing a speaker, using body language, using visual aids. In fact, any of the Better Speaker series modules can be used to help build capacity. And of course, there are the leadership sessions as well. Standards of a quality club, the role of the area, district, and division and district. And it is important that clubs know very early that they are part of a larger grouping, especially corporate clubs. There's a tendency to say that corporate clubs are isolated because they don't participate in like area contests and so on. But when you are building the club, it is up to the club builders, the sponsors, the mentors, the extended team to make sure that the area, the division, and the district are introduced. Then there is membership building and recognition, leadership excellence series, the successful club series. All of these are available for you to help build capacity in the prospective club. So here's an activity which I'd like you to do. I've started the process by saying for meeting 1, which is the sample meeting, the education feature is going to be the charter process. For meeting 2, I'm suggesting managing the club, that is determining the club's name, meeting times, frequency, how many speeches you're going to try to do per meeting, those kinds of things. Meeting 3 is where you want to do the leadership roles and ensure that persons understand what the president does as opposed to what the sergeant at arms does. And then in meeting 4, you have your election of officers. What are some of the ideas that you would think we should do for meeting 5, and tell us why? Any recommendations for meeting 5? Or would you like me to go back to that slide?
I would do, I would actually do meeting roles and responsibilities first. And then in meeting 6, do the Toastmasters education.
All right, you're suggesting meeting roles and responsibility for meeting 5?
Yes.
Why?
Because I want to start having the members, the prospective members, taking over the roles. So I believe that I would want them to start to have that understanding and then do the Toastmasters education program.
Okay, so you do the meeting roles in 5, and in 6 you do the meeting roles and responsibilities?
Yes.
Okay. Any other recommendations?
Yeah, I would like to suggest the first thing.
Yes, Ian.
The first thing to do is a combination of the success plan and the moment of truth. So when you start a club, you look and you observe the areas that need to be addressed. And then after 6 months' time, you do a follow-up program to see how well the 6 pillars of the moment of truth has been addressed. And in the moment of truth, you have membership building, orientation of members, awards, recognition. So it gives the club or the new members a direction that the club is taking. And therefore, the moment of truth and the success plan, I would suggest, in my humble way, those are the first 2 information parts that we should address.
Okay. Anyone has anything to say on that? Thank you, Ian. Any comments on doing the moments of truth or the club success plan this early in the experience for the prospective clubs?
I do have a point, distinguished
Yes.
Toastmaster.
Yes, Toastmaster Melinda.
I think it's a very good point that Toastmaster Ian has proposed. I'm not sure that at this point, I'm not sure if at this early, the club has gotten to the stage where you'll get as much information out of that because they haven't really started to create their culture or create the certain setting that would allow them to benefit from the moments of truth, I think. I agree that you can use elements of the moment of truth to help with a strategic plan for how they operate, but maybe not do an assessment at that point, because they would not have really started a club culture to be able to get that great wealth of information from it, like an existing club.
Thank you, Melinda. Anyone else? Anyone else? Ian, I agree that the moment of truth and the club success plan are absolutely essential for the club to do. My own recommendation would be to do them the moment they are chartered. That's when we do them. They would have met 8 times already. They would have had a sense of what Toastmasters is about. They would have selected their leaders, and the leaders would have had a couple of weeks of managing their portfolio. So when they sit down to meet as a group to do the success plan, for example, they have an indication as to where it is that they want to go. So yeah, I agree with you that doing the moments of truth followed immediately by the club success plan are absolutely important. But I would do it once they are chartered, not in the lead up to charter. Okay?
Yep, good.
Thanks. So anyone else with suggestions for meetings 5, 6, 7, or 8? None. All right. So meeting 5, it was you suggested for meeting 5, Corinne, the meeting rules. Corinne?
Yes, I suggested meeting roles for 5.
And then followed by the
education program.
That's fine. I'm not hearing you clearly, whoever is speaking. I'm sorry, I'm not following.
I think a team member was off mute by accident.
Okay. All right. So the other thing that I would want to recommend that you do early in this session is something like organize your speech.
Oh, yes.
Because we are asking people to start doing speeches. In fact, from meeting 2 or 3, they would be presenting their speeches. So you want to give them some skills early in the day. So get them to do organize your speech. And of course, something about club success, not the club success plan, but the standards of a quality club, perhaps. Those are some of the things that I would personally include in the first 8 sessions, because you want to combine the communication skills with the meeting management skills. So those are some of the ideas that I would want to suggest. What of club officer training? And what of the club success plan? Based on Ian's recommendation, I've already spoken to the club success plan that I would do that immediately after charter. I think, Jason, you have raised your hand.
Yes, I was going to answer your previous question, but I will answer this new question about club officer training.
Yes.
Depends on the composition of the executive. If you have an advanced club and you have Toastmasters already in the executive position, then club officer training can be delayed a little. But if it's a brand new club with persons doing those roles for the first time, you'd coordinate with the area director, even within your club, to have a session as early as possible, probably within the first 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And you would cover every role, especially the roles that you'd have new persons filling in those roles. You could divide it into the administrative roles like president, secretary, and treasurer, and the marketing roles, PR and PR and membership, and have a special session for education.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Jason. Very, very good recommendation. Bear in mind that I know I see your hand, Melinda. I'm coming to it. I'm coming to your hand. Bear in mind that depending on the time of year that the club is chartered, you can organize a special session for them and the club gets credit anyway, even if it's outside the regular club officer training period. Yes, Melinda, you had your hand raised.
I was actually going to ask you what I'm aware of and ask you to confirm if that is the understanding, but you've just confirmed. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Somebody else has their hand up? The thing said 2 hands, but I'm only seeing, all right. So, fellow Toastmasters, we have covered quite a bit in this hour, in this past 2 hours. Toastmaster Fabiola set a firm base for you in terms of preparing, and I hope that I've given you sufficient information to get you moving on as to some of the things you need to be putting into the actual meetings of the prospective clubs. Do you have any questions for me?
Madam, I just have a suggestion here.
Yes, sir.
When join a club and members join a club, there are 2 critical forms that are valuable to Toastmasters Club, and that is the interest form and the profile.
Yes.
There are 2 forms that are very important, and therefore we can select executive members, we can put members in committees, and we know certain strengths of members and where members can be placed. And those 2 forms, the profile form and the interest form, are very valuable documents and knowledge for a club.
I agree with you, Toastmaster Ian, that we need to make sure that the new club, the prospect turned into new club, is aware of all the resources that are available and some of the forms that they can use to help them in their journey as a Toastmaster. The fact is that so often our clubs forget that this member interest survey offers valuable information, that the profile is something that you need to update from time to time, because if you have a member that has been in Toastmasters for 3-4 years, things would have changed for them. And you want to be able to use their skills and for them to contribute to the building of other members. So you are right. That profile form is important, that interest survey is important, very critical for them to be done very, very early in their journey as Toastmasters. Again, this is where I would recommend that it is done after charter, after members have access to the pathway and are able to search. Well, they can search even as non-members, but they have a significant, what's the word I'm looking for? They would have had the opportunity to search the web as a member. And when they go into their portfolio, on their access page, not access, their page, they will be able to see so much more than just browsing as a non-member. Thank you very much for that, Ian. Any other questions, comments? Toastmaster Roxanne, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, dear. So nice to see you. Great session.
Thank you. I know you have had some experience starting even non-English speaking clubs.
Yes, I did.
Can you share an experience with what are some of the things that people need to watch out for as they're starting clubs, not necessarily in English?
Well, the first thing that I would like to suggest is to get to know the culture. Get to know the culture, people. It's very important because, you know, that mix and mingleness, you need to be very careful at the start of a new club, who the people are going to be that is going to be among these 20 persons.
Right.
So that is very important. The next thing I would like to say is that before starting with any details about building this club, please try to give a presentation about what is Toastmaster.
Right. Thank you.
If you start giving that information with sharing some brochures, magazines, some information that people can go home with, read for a while, and then come back, you will lift the interest more among those people, and they will be more likely to join a Toastmasters club. So the prior information before you start building this club is very important. And if you want to be a sponsor or a club mentor, then you need to realize that you need to be an energetic, motivated, and enthusiastic person, because you need to light that fire for them to see within you how great this organization is. And when I had opportunity to start the first Toastmaster Club in Puerto Rico, at that point, Toastmaster International did not have Spanish manuals. So I had to translate everything into Spanish for them, because they really wanted to have it in Spanish, even though it is still a United Nations country. But it was so fun and a great challenge for me to get to know these people, their culture. And these were all executives who started this club. So asking one of them to become a sergeant at arms was almost an offense. So I had to share the information, how great this function is, this role is, for them to get enrolled with the system. So these are the main issues that I would like to share with you shortly. Please take care of the culture, know the people before you get those people together.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Roxanne. Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
Much. All right. I see that I probably have 2 minutes. I see one raised hand, and that's a final comment I will take, or question. Is that Joni?
It is, but it actually is stemming from a conversation that we were having in the chat while you were discussing how to reach out. Anthony Durand, I hope you got your name right, Anthony, had said there are opportunities for more corporate clubs. I think it starts with targeting the human resource managers to show them the benefits. Many of the top Fortune 500 companies have corporate clubs, but you don't have to be a Fortune 500 company to have a corporate club. If the company sees communication and leadership skills are essential for the growth of the company, they will support and encourage corporate Toastmasters. I continued the line of that thought to say, well, as it relates to leads, is it that by default, once a Fortune 500 company, and we can take Fortune 500 out and just put multinational, is a member of Toastmasters, do they default to creating a club when they enter into another territory? Like they open up a company in Jamaica, do they by default have a Toastmasters, or do we have to approach them to say join, or do they approach us to start? That was the line of that question.
Right. So no, it's not automatic that they join. We have to be aware and jump in and make the propose the club. But that's a discussion we can have, Joni. Fellow Toastmasters, I trust that this has been useful for you. It has been my pleasure to present, and I am always, always, always available to discuss club building. Always, always, always available to discuss club building. I turn you over to Toastmaster Shinari.
Thank you so very much for sharing with us, distinguished Toastmaster Essie. I definitely could feel that this is something that you believe in. As we learned about assessing leads, it sounded to me like very strategic, that we have to be strategic about it, about making contact, that we should not try to overshoot. Don't try to sell them up in the first contact. We just need to get to the next step. So if we make contact, we just want to get to the meeting with them. And then you spoke about the sample and organizing meetings. And I was able to learn in that session that we have to be strategic about the things that we want the club to learn as they go along to develop their culture. Definitely led a very interactive discussion, and I learned a lot. And from what I see in the chat, others learned a lot as well.